Some regions continue to defy normal explanation. Across the northern forests of North America, winter reduces life to endurance rather than movement. Distance compresses, sound carries differently, and hunger becomes a constant presence rather than a passing sensation. In these environments, stories persist that do not describe creatures, but outcomes. They document what happens when survival exceeds its limits and something functional begins to fail while the body continues forward. In such places, mistakes do not announce themselves immediately. They accumulate quietly, expressed only through altered behavior and narrowed choices. Have you ever heard about it? Mythical ground. If you like mystery, you have come to the right place. The Wendigo is recorded throughout regions traditionally inhabited by Algonquian-speaking peoples, including what are now parts of Canada and the northern United States. References appear among the Cree, Ojibwe, Innu, Saulteaux, and neighboring groups, with variations in name and emphasis, but strong consistency in behavior. The phenomenon is inseparable from its environment. Forest density, prolonged winter, isolation, and scarcity form the conditions under which it is observed. When any of these elements weaken, reports diminish accordingly. Accounts do not begin with a creature. They begin with a person. Someone travels too far into winter territory. Someone becomes isolated beyond retrieval. Someone experiences hunger without witnesses. What follows is described not as an instant transformation, but as a progression. Familiar behavior erodes gradually. Decision-making narrows. Time perception alters. The individual continues moving, but no longer toward resolution, only persistence. Physical descriptions vary across regions. Some accounts describe a tall, emaciated figure with skin drawn tight, movement elongated and unnatural. Others avoid form entirely, identifying the Wendigo only through traces left behind. Sound, odor, altered tracks, or disrupted camps replace visual certainty. In many traditions, appearance is secondary to consequence. What matters is not what is seen, but what no longer functions normally afterward. The Wendigo defining function is hunger without termination. Consumption does not satisfy it. Each act of feeding intensifies the condition rather than resolving it. Movement continues not to reach a destination, but to extend pursuit. This produces a pattern of endless seeking rather than survival. The condition expands faster than the body can sustain, creating a loop that does not self-correct. In several traditions, the condition is linked to cannibalism committed under extreme necessity. The act itself is rarely described in detail. Emphasis remains on what follows. Once crossed, the threshold does not reopen. The individual may retain memory, language, and habits for a time, but the internal function governing restraint has altered. What was once an emergency response becomes a permanent operational mode. Communities describe recognizing the phenomenon indirectly. Supplies disappear without theft. Tracks appear where no solitary person should move. Night sounds imitate speech, but fail to follow conversational rhythm. Voices repeat requests without adapting to responses. These signals alter behavior long before confirmation. Routes are abandoned. Camps relocate. Night watches extend. Silence becomes procedural rather than fearful. Winter is integral, not incidental. Cold prolongs movement while suppressing decay. Hunger stabilizes instead of fluctuating. In this alignment, the Wendigo is not chaotic, but systematic. It persists because the environment supports its function. When conditions endure, so does the pattern. Some regional accounts emphasize vocal imitation. A familiar voice calls from beyond the tree line, asking for help or shelter. Those who recognize the imperfection describe misplaced emphasis, repeated phrases, or delayed responses. The imitation lacks adaptation. Hearing without responding becomes essential. Engagement is what allows proximity. The Wendigo alters space without occupying it visibly. Once suspected, an area loses usability. Hunting grounds fall silent. Trails disappear from seasonal movement. Even after winters pass and no further signs appear, locations remain excluded from routine travel. Its presence is often temporary in place, but permanent in memory. After seasons pass, snow covers evidence. Yet coordinates remain marked in collective knowledge. Elders issue warnings attached to terrain rather than dates. The land itself becomes instructional. Some traditions describe the Wendigo retaining prior knowledge. Former routes are remembered. Camps are approached strategically. Food is taken selectively. This reinforces the perception that identity persists while internal regulation collapses. What fails is not intelligence, but limitation. Several accounts describe interruption rather than destruction. Recognition disrupts effectiveness. Naming the condition aloud, exposing imitation, or confronting it verbally is said to interfere with its operation. The emphasis is not on defeat, but on breaking the mechanism that allows closeness. Other traditions mention environmental limits. Fire is described as avoided, not feared. Heat disrupts alignment. Extended daylight shortens range. These are recorded as weakening conditions, not guarantees of safety. No method is described as absolute. Crucially, no tradition presents a universal solution. What limits the phenomenon in one region may fail in another. This inconsistency remains central. The Wendigo is documented through pattern, not promise. Later interpretations often reduce the Wendigo to a singular monstrous form. Traditional accounts preserve ambiguity. The condition may pass unnoticed. It may resemble ordinary behavior until deviation becomes undeniable. Familiarity is part of the risk. Historical records from colonial periods occasionally reference unexplained disappearances attributed indirectly to Wendigo activity. These records lack elaboration, suggesting familiarity rather than novelty. The phenomenon was already integrated into local understanding. In contemporary use, the Wendigo is often treated symbolically, but within traditional frameworks, symbolism is secondary. The phenomenon is functional. It alters decisions, redirects movement, and ends journeys. It operates regardless of belief. Silence recurs as a survival element. Many accounts emphasize restraint over action. Do not answer, do not investigate. The condition advances through engagement, not force. Absence of response limits escalation. Social consequences also appear. Individuals suspected of transformation may be isolated. This response is preventative rather than punitive. Proximity itself is considered risk. Communities prioritize collective endurance over individual uncertainty. Across regions, the Wendigo is never portrayed as conquered. It is avoided, endured, or outlasted until conditions change. Winter ends, hunger recedes, movement resumes. What remains is memory, reinforced through repetition. The phenomenon persists because the conditions persist. As long as isolation, cold, and scarcity align, the pattern remains viable. The Wendigo does not require invocation. It emerges when the environment repeats itself. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next mythical ground.